unhappy with the Hanover Draft Board and the beggar thy neighbor attitude of the New Hampshire people he had come to dislike anyway. Of course, the draft board in Helena probably did the same thing, drafting men not from local families, but from away. To John it seemed to be a perversion of the idea that everyone should share the national burden equally. And it was. What if you really didn't want to go? I had to think, what if? But no one wanted to go. I found it hard to explain that a huge percentage of American soldiers didn't want to be American soldiers. My draft board was in Peekskill, New York, and they did the same thing to me as they had done to John Stevenson. I had moved to Vermont after college. The Peekskill people were just as eager to protect their local sons, and since I was no longer local, they put my name on the list. For a year, I had a job in Vermont at a GE plant that made machine guns for fighter aircraft, and the job had a deferment. My exact job was to produce industrial films to illustrate the destructive power of miniguns. Miniguns were Gatling-style guns used to strafe the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese Army troops. They were very effective. Fired down from small planes and helicopters, they supposedly protected U.S. Army troops, or so I felt at the time. It did not occur to me that miniguns were very high-technology weaponry used against an enemy who just had rifles and no aircraft. I did not want it to occur to me. The deferment ended. The arrival of a draft notice had a strange effect. My father had served in World War II during some hellish island fighting in the South Pacific. He counseled, well, nothing. If I wanted to go to Canada or Sweden, he offered financial help. In the mid-1960s, the arguments for and against the war were at best inconclusive and at worst highly suspect. Young people who were against serving may have been legitimately against violence and war and in favor of peace for all mankind. Or they may have just been against the idea of them, individually and personally, leaving their lives of American ease and privilege for hot, dangerous, and demeaning military duty. I could have gone to Canada because I had the family backing, but not everyone could do that. I had been raised in middle-class comfort, and the trade-off was obedience. You didn't necessarily do what you were told, but you did what was expected. The most powerful influence on a young person was the conviction that there were well-thought-out rules and everyone followed them. Wise heads had concluded that America had to fight communism. The only way to stop communism was to fight against it. Whereas, in fact, the cure for communism was plain. The real cure for communism was communism. Second after that conviction was the widely accepted idea that the United States was guided to do the right thing given enough time and opportunity. God had something to do with this. We believed in right and wrong. Our version of ourselves was a combination of World War II victory, the Marshall Plan, and Louis Armstrong. I showed up as instructed for induction because, in addition to the foregoing reasons, I had always taken the path of least resistance. I was not a protester, at least not personally. The easiest thing to do was to let myself be drafted and then look for a way to keep out of the actual fighting. The Army was, after all, a very big place. Many drafted people served in Germany, which didn't sound too bad. Some never left the U.S. And in addition, the war was the subject of fierce national political debate. The war might end. The number of U.S. killed each week was down to about 200, depending on whom you believed. The acceptability of this number was explained by the general in charge, William Westmoreland. The number was less than the number of Americans killed on the highways each week. In retrospect, I am amazed.